Welcome to Senator Frankie's eMTB channel. Today, we're kicking off an exciting new series. We'll be meeting and chatting with eMTB owners across Southern California to get a closer look into their customized e-mountain bikes. Hopefully, this will help you with your decision when you purchase your own eMTB. In our very first episode, we'll be looking at a limited production dream bike from Crestline, California, the Crestline 5075. Before we head on over to talk to the owner, let's quickly review the specs of this bike. The Crestline 5075 has 150 millimeters of rear travel, and that is also adjustable up to 175 millimeters. It has a Bosch CX race motor with 750 watt hours of battery, an Öhlins TTX2 air shock, 160 millimeter Öhlins RXF 38 M2 air fork, a SRAM GX axis drivetrain, Magura MT7 brakes, Crank Brothers synthesis carbon wheel set, 1-up components in the cockpit and the drop seat post, coming in at $12,999 USD. With the specs out of the way, let's head on over and get to know the owner of the Crestline 5075. All right, we are here with my man Brandon with the Crestline 5075, and today we're gonna have him answer some of the questions that you guys may have for this bike. First of all, let's start off with some rider details. All right, Brandon, how long have you been riding mountain bikes?
So I started in probably 2019. I've been riding moto off and on my whole life, and I figured I have a better group of mountain bike riders, and it's easier to get a group together to ride that than it is to load up the dirt bike and, plan around that. So
did you get into mountain biking from the start, or were you just e-bike from the get-go?
I did have one regular mountain bike to start off, but then the e-bike scene came on, and it was just a better fit for me.
Once you got on e-bike,
the weight was better fit for me, transferring over from the moto scene.
So if you don't mind me asking, what do you do for a living? I mean, a lot of people will probably want to know what the usual people are doing.
I am a regular old Joe, man. I'm a truck driver.
Oh, nice.
For a big beverage company. I've been there 25 years. This month will be 25 years.
Awesome.
So yeah, truck driver.
Cool. How many e-bikes do you currently own?
Currently 2. I have a 2023 Orbea Wild.
Nice. So total, how many have you owned so far?
6.
Six e-bikes. Let's name them.
6 e-bikes.
What's the first e-bike you got?
2020 Orbea Wild. Okay. Great bike. After that, I got a YT Decoy. After that, I got the Husqvarna Hard Cross 9.
Okay.
After that, I got a 2020 Specialized Turbo Levo. Then I got my 2023 Orbea Wild, and now the 2023 Crestline.
So can you say, with all the e-bikes that you've gotten, this is the one right now? I mean, this is the best so far.
It's becoming my top pick. Yeah, it's up there.
Yeah. And the most expensive one?
Between this and my new Wild, they're right around the same. Let's just put it this way. If we can go back to the early 90s, a Honda Civic cost would be about what this costs.
That's
so
right.
They're getting up there in price. But yeah, this one's one of my all-time favorite builds. I did build it myself, picked out all the parts.
Nice.
Did all the little details and stuff myself.
You've done a lot of work to it because there's so many little things, so many little details on this bike right now that is just making this bike the ultimate dream machine. Let's just get into the modifications. What did you do to the fork? Obviously, you have the DVO. Why did you choose a DVO setup on this bike?
This bike started life as a 5075, meaning the 5075 is the rear travel height. It started with a 160, 150. I rode it once. That wasn't for me. I'm a bigger guy. I like more suspension. So at that point in time, I could have converted the stock Öhlins suspension to make that work. I love the DVO on my Specialized. I already had the fork, so when I converted everything over, I swapped the parts from my Specialized over to this.
Okay.
Had to buy the shock, obviously, because it was a different size, and I went with coil. I really love the simplicity of the DVO stuff.
Yes.
It's a little lighter because it's a 36 millimeter versus a Fox 38 or something like that. So it is a little lighter, but I also add weight in like the stem for strength or the brakes. This bike is so versatile. That's one of the reasons why I really like this bike is it can be whatever you want it to be.
Nice.
50, 75. It can be a 160, 150. Currently it's a 180, 175 long travel, and you can do anything in between. You could keep that 180 and go, 165 in the back with the flip chip. So versatile. They did a great job on this bike.
So the stock 5075 came with all the one-up
It
components.
It did.
And I see that you've switched to Deity. Are there carbon bars as well?
Those are. I've been a fan of the Deity stuff. I try to keep all my bikes with somewhat of the same components. That way, when I switch, it's not too big of a switch between bikes, and I got to take half the day to get used to it. The reason why I switched them is because the stock one-up bars, they didn't have the rise that I liked. I think they were only 20 mil. I just prefer these. It has the sweep and the feel, the rise.
Nice.
I'm used to them, so I stick with them.
Yeah. And then the stem is from Yoshimura. That's a very interesting stem right there.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that stem.
So it's a Yosh ENDH, so it's an Enduro / DH. It could be used for a single crown fork like we have here, or just by unbolting the adapter that's underneath it. That setup will bolt right onto a dual crown. So it's versatile. It's one stem for all forks.
That's awesome.
And I think that the machining on it is second to none. They're a great company to work with.
Having that option is pretty crazy because I was just thinking like maybe 2-3 years down the line, you're kind of sick of riding the same setup.
Yeah.
You can switch to a dual crown. I mean, that's
one of the reasons this bike is so good is because you can fit this bike with a dual crown. It's dual crown rated. It's got the straight head tube with interchangeable headsets that you could put straight tube dual crown on there. I've already got the stem. It wouldn't be that hard, but press out the headset, push in the new one.
What's the biggest travel you can put in the front with the 175 in the rear?
You could do 203. You could do you could do a full 203, and this is dual crown rated. Yeah, it's a great setup.
Very sick. You do a lot of work on the brakes as well.
These are the new Tech 4 V4. So it's got the updated reservoir system up front with the new levers, updated bearings inside the levers instead of bushings, updated clamping system.
And I see you've done a whole bunch of personalized detail with the better bolts, the titanium bolts. They're all around this bike, and it's like that's just making the bike look complete. Very, very cool.
It's all about the details, Frank.
The wheels.
So the stock build does come with these same exact hoops. These came from my Levo. They have the lime green Industry 9 Hydras. But yeah, the stock hoops are these exact wheels. They're the e-bike wheels from Crank Brothers.
And then these are mullet setup.
Mullet setup, 32 spoke, 28 spoke.
I'm going to ask you some personal questions that I think our viewers will want to know.
All right.
Exactly how much you paid for this bike.
Okay.
Without the components,
okay.
just the upfront pricing.
So I bought this bike new used, secondhand.
Okay.
Bought it with 95 miles on it.
Nice. That's
I paid 10 for it.
95 miles, $3,000 discount is pretty good.
Yeah. I mean you can't. I couldn't stop. I had to go get it.
I mean, like I couldn't resist with that 30% off on the turbo.
Right,
I couldn't resist. I mean, with this bike. If anybody has that little extra cash, getting this bike at $10,000, $3,000 discount is pretty good. What's the number one thing that you love about this bike? The number one, like absolutely, if they change everything, this is the one thing you don't want them to change.
The versatility.
Okay.
This bike can be anything you want it to be.
Nice.
Just by changing a few little components or modifying a few little components, like the stroke on the shock or the internals on the fork, I can make this a 160, 150 bike again, like that.
What's the one thing you don't like about this bike?
Ooh, that's a That's a tough question because there's not really
It's almost
much.
perfect.
Yeah, there's not really much not to like. I mean, if I had to nitpick this bike, it's literally the rubber chain protectors on. Like they come off. Maybe the adhesive that they use wasn't strong enough. That's minuscule compared to
What they've done with
what they've done. We're talking about two guys that created their own bike company, and they produced a better bike than most big bike brands.
for sure.
I am not affiliated with Crestline Bike Company. I've met the owners, two great dudes, Troyden and Mark. They've done a fantabulous job with this bike. Like it's almost
It's
the perfect
perfect.
bike.
It's almost perfect.
It's almost the perfect
Yeah.
bike.
And that's just nitpicking. That part.
I mean, there's not really much to hate about this bike. I mean, there's not too many bikes out on the market today, big box bikes that have the new Bosch smart system that has the controller underneath, the kiosk up top, the mini remote, the race motor, 750 battery that you can remove, by the way. There's not too many bikes out right now
that
have
stuff,
that. And two guys built their own company and created a
So what number is
masterpiece.
this? This is definitely, well, for some of you guys that don't know, they only made 50 of these guys.
Well, let me correct you on that. So there's a 50-75, and then there's a 75-50. They made 50 of each.
Yeah.
So this, like I said, this started life as a 50-75. And so they made 50 of these. This is number 39. That's its nickname, is number 39. And they're all printed on the head tube here.
The CX race compared to all the motors you've ridden Shimano, you've ridden Bosch, you've ridden, what else is out there?
Brose,
yes. What do you think? Like, compared to all the other motors, like how does this motor ride?
It's great. Like I said, I've had the E8000, the first Shimano motor.
Yep.
I've had the EP8. I've had the Brose. I have and currently have had the CX regular and then now the race.
CX race.
The Bosch motors, I've said it from day one, the Bosch motors are probably the best that I've ridden personally. That's my personal opinion. I think the way that they tune the motors to deliver the power is almost near perfect. The power that they deliver is great. And the reliability so far has been
top notch.
Have
you had any frame issues so far or any motor issues so far with the Crestline?
I've talked to a buddy of mine and he's in good with them, and he said as of right now they have had zero
awesome.
defects with the frames, with the swing arms. The only issue I've had with this bike is the bottom controller. There's one screw that holds it in. It's almost like a rivet nut that goes up in there into the carbon. It pulled out. Simple fix. I used some JB Weld epoxy, put it back up in there. That was on their advice.
Nice.
But yeah, that's the only problem I've had. The fit and finish on these bikes are great. Everything just fits. All the bolt holes are perfect. I can't say enough good things.
The perfect bike almost.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, so with that, are we going to get to ride, am I going to get to ride this bike today?
If you want.
Get a rundown? All right, I'm a little bit nervous because I've never ridden a bike this expensive. So I'll be like very gentle. Plus, we're on different setups, so I don't want to like push it too hard because that really is a little bit dangerous for both of us if you're riding my bike as well. All right, thank you, Brandon. We'll definitely do another episode on Brandon's Orbea Wild because that one is another pretty kick-ass bike.
That's going to be a good video too.
I love the Orbea Wild. It looks so nice. We'll go back into the studio and I'll let you know how my test ride went. Thank you, Brandon, for allowing me to test ride this bike. I had tons of fun riding that bike. And I have to say again, I was a little bit nervous riding such an expensive bike. I can't thank you enough for allowing me to test it. With the short time on the bike, I felt this bike really loves the chunk and the steep stuff. It was really easy for me to get over the bike and find that attack position. And once you find that attack position, you just point in any direction. It can hold its line very well. Very different from the Turbo Levo where you have to be a little bit choosy of which lines. Definitely a dream bike to own if you have the extra cash in your wallet. Let me know in the comments section what type of questions you may have for the next feature eMTB. Love to get some feedback from you all. Also check out _inside FTW on Instagram. Faust Tuning Works. He's been my mechanic for quite some time now, and believe it or not, he's also my neighbor. Like literally next behind my house. So go check him out if you need a mechanic in Southern California. He's been helping me out with my Turbo Levo and builds, and he's been a great advisor to parts, labor, just general know-how. So go and check him out. Hope you all enjoyed this new series. Hope to bring you more knowledge and information. And with that, I hope you all have a great week. Hit that like and subscribe. See you on the next one. And as always, stay electric. Peace.